Hey guys, welcome to Casual Card Gaming. This is Carlos. This is a game that Tony and I were playing, my black Devious 18 versus his red Ruthless Turles. Here he draws and passes for his first turn, doesn't go into combat with 3. And this isn't the best matchup for a physical beatdown deck just because specifically after personality level 1, 18 really shuts down a physical beatdown deck. Here I rejuvenate Black Lunge, and I pass the turn back onto him. So usually, especially with Ruthless Turles, as you guys probably already know, it's one of the fastest growing budget decks, and it's really competitive just because it has the ability to turn off Endurance. So with stage locking the enemy early on, it makes sure to constantly hit for life damage and critting every chance it gets. So specifically in Red Ruthless, that's going to be 2 anger drops every time he hits a crit. So that's partially the reason why I keep that knee catch in hand. I'll draw my 3 cards, and let's see, I don't remember if I go into combat this round or not. Oh, so we do go into combat. I go ahead and I open with a Black Dash. So Black Dash, use it just to kind of get the 2 anger roll and get the ball going. And he goes ahead and he stops that, which is pretty good because it may have done a good chunk of damage. I believe we're both at C at this point, so that would have been about 4 stages on a life. Here I'll knee catch for his flat stage damage, so that way I can't get damaged by it, although that does kind of give up the effect for 18 level 1, which is the first attack cannot have its damage modified if it's a physical attack. I'm kind of taking a look at it, seeing what's going on with the cards, seeing how many cards he has left, even though it's really early on. Something that Tony regularly does, if you guys ever meet up and play with him, is he'll ask you how many cards are in hand. And here I'll go ahead and I'll use Black Overhead Burst to launch myself to Android 18's level 2. So here, without any flat stage damage, the physical game already starts to slow down, if not be turned off, because of her effect, which is as long as she is above 5 stages above 0, I believe. Physical attacks cannot have their damage modified. That means plus or minus, meaning it has to rely on the attack table, which for Turles, he doesn't get much higher than C. He doesn't get any higher than C actually on level 1, and through level 4 he only gets to about D, where all the androids go through E and Cell gets up to F, if you consider him an android, which he is. So here he uses his mastery to get rid of Premonition, and then copy. Let's see what he'll be copying here. We're just kind of waiting here while he does it. There we go. Searches his life deck for styled event. He'll pick Red Stop, which is the only styled event he runs, and he's copying Red Slide. Well, using Red Slide again, just so that way he can get the anger up to be able to block using his drill. And that's going to hit for no damage because of 18's ability. This was one of the first games that Tony and I played together, so we were still kind of ironing out the rules of what 18's power, her effect rather, looks like, and how that actually affects the turnout of the game. So here we both pass, and I pass the turn on to Tony, so he'll draw his 3 cards, and he'll choose from there whether or not he wants to go into combat. So one of the great things about this deck is that while it could probably go into combat every turn, Tony's deck at least, it doesn't necessarily have to. As you can see here, he goes into combat this turn, and I was lucky enough to draw another knee catch along with a second headbutt and a toss. So here he'll play Red Chop, which is flat stage damage, which is the best way to get rid of 18, but I'll go ahead and knee catch that. Then I'll use toss, I believe. If not, then I'll use headbutt. Well, those are my really only my real two choices here. And I'm kind of weary about his blocking drill there, but with toss it'll allow me to grab another card with Android in the title. Usual target for that is 18's Armbreaker, although headbutt is another target, as well as let's see what I go ahead and I'll pick up here. So as you can see here, another option would be attack drill. And the great thing about toss is if you were to decide to search for your deck for a drill setup or ally, and when you place it in your hand, it actually gets placed into play. So here I'll take Armbreaker, and we'll see if he takes the damage from 18's toss. Nope, he'll block it with his drill, which means that he probably didn't have an energy block in hand, but I also didn't have an energy attack in hand. And 18's toss is banished after use, and you can't tutor for 18's toss with 18's toss. So here he's going to do the smart move, which is to use his mastery to use Red Chop again. So that way it'll actually lowering me down to 50,000, which is 5 above 0. And I'll hit headbutt, and it'll be 6 life cards in one stage, thanks to Devious doing +1/+1, and Android 18's, or actually that's going to be, yeah, Android 18's level 2, which is +1 life card of damage for all of your attacks. Right there, which is where I highlighted it. So here he'll come in with the slide. I don't remember what that's going to do. Well, it's going to go ahead and lower my anger, I believe. Yep, there it goes. And then I'll use Armbreaker to immediately drop him 2 stages. So that's one of the best things about Armbreaker. It's that its immediate effect is to raise your own anger and lower your opponent's MP by 2 stages, meaning that if they are at 0, that's 2 cards they'll be milling right off the top of their life deck. Here I'm just waiting. There it goes. So sometimes with Octagon, unfortunately the connection isn't the best, so you'll see right there that it actually kind of jumped. It looks like I was just waiting for the damage to come through. As far as the stages, it's AT +3, and then the life card damage comes in right there, which is great life card damage to cap, specifically because it was an endurance card. So I go ahead and banish a card off the top of my life deck to end combat. Even though it was already the end, I wanted to make sure that it ended there. So I'll PUR. I don't remember if I go in on this hand or not. If I do have an easy target for my mastery, which is Black Command. It'll give me the 2 anger, shuffle itself back into the life deck, so I don't have to worry too much about it, and then it gets a card out of his hand, banishes the bottom 2 of his discard. The same thing that it's done since set 1. So we go into combat, and Antonio's drawn his 3 cards. And I'll open up with headbutt. So here Tony has a choice if he could block it with his drill, or actually I force him to go up to Turles level 2. It may not have been the best play, but it does get rid of his blocking drill, and it no longer gives him the option to hit me for unavoidable damage. So it may have been a good move, it may not have been, but it'll be 6 life in one stage regardless. And he will time this combat, so yeah, well, so that basically all my attacks are going to be useless, just because with Time is a Warrior's Tool, it stops every attack that your opponent plays against you. And then of course the card to combat that would be Spheres, but at Casual Card Gaming we are casual gamers and we don't really play with ultra rares. So here he's going to use red power lift just because he knows that this is a physical heavy deck rather than an energy heavy deck, which means that he'll be blocking my next physical attack. And you can see here that, you know, it kind of bugs out. Didn't really, there wasn't a whole lot that I can do. I try to go ahead and fix it up later, but sometimes Octagon just doesn't work with you. There we go. Everything's situated now. So yeah, so we go ahead, and now Tony's down to 1 card in hand, but he still has Turles' attack, which, unfortunately for me, puts me right out of the range of modifying or stopping any modification of his physical attacks. So here I'm going to use Black Dismissal just because it's going to raise me an extra 4 stages, putting me back at 50,000. Along with this, it's going to do 5 stages and 2 life card of damage and raise me up 1 anger. So at least I'll get back a little bit what I lost from that crit from Turles' ability. And that's it. We both pass, and I give the turn over to Tony. He's going to draw his 3 cards, do his PUR, and we'll see if he goes into combat. Usually he will, unless it's not a good hand to go in on, and he does make that decision very clear. He doesn't try to rush into every combat unless he knows that it's going to work out favorably for him, you know, and if not, then it's just the RNG gods where, you know, it just doesn't work out. But so here it's kind of taking a little while. It could be freezing from Octagon or analysis paralysis, but here I'm taking a better look at red forward standstill just to figure out how I can bait it out, or reminding him rather, I guess that's what I was doing, that it was gone since I made his personality level go up in the previous combat using Android Headbutt. Okay, so here he goes. He'll banish the top card from his discard pile for his mastery to go into combat. This isn't the best hand to have, especially since, or specifically rather, because I have a VTP on the draw, which is a dead card, and I would have to save it for my next turn. And unfortunately, he hits me with the Turles' power, or attack rather, and it takes away all of my stages. So I'm really stuck in a loop right now where at least he's no longer on level 1, which means that I'll be able to endure any damage that comes my way right now. Had he been on level 1, this probably would have changed the tide of the game in his direction, and it could have cost me the game. So I get Black Dash off. He doesn't block it. Do about 5 stages of damage and 2 life cards. Luckily, it takes out a red stop from his deck, which means 1 less Omni block. So now he'll use his mastery to go ahead and copy. Oh, yep, gets rid of premonition. That's what it's there for. Now he's going to search out for a stop, if he still has one. I don't believe he does. And he's going to hit me for red double strike. Counting out the cards. 4 life cards, no crit. Then I'll play Black Chin Kick. This is really my attempt, since he didn't block my last physical attack, to see if he will let this one go unblocked, so that way I could double my anger and jump the personality level. Oh, it looks like I had forgotten to lower my anger for his mastery when he hit me with a double strike, but I think it's fine. I believe this one goes unblocked, which will jump me up to 3. So this would be 4 stages and 2 life, which is exactly what happens. Perfect, and that'll double my anger to 6, which, unless you're playing against the blue protective mastery, is unimportant, and it's enough to jump you up to the next personality. So now, Android 18's level 3 is probably my favorite, not only because she shuts off all physical attacks from your opponent as long as your power level is above 1, which means literally 1 over 0. Your opponent's physical attacks won't have their damage modified, and she has an attack for 0 life cards. It's an energy attack. With the Black Devious Mastery, it's +1/+1, and it's you look through the top 6 cards of your life deck, and you draw a card. So you can rearrange them in any order. It's very Trunks, and it's a nice little control feature to be able to have when you get to this personality level. So he'll play a red shoulder grab, which will do no damage, but will mean that every attack that lands will be a crit from here on. So I'll use 18's attack, and I don't believe he has an energy block in hand. He does not. So it will land. I'll look at the top 6 and rearrange them here. So as I'm rearranging, I think I originally had thought of Turles' power, since that's what I believed he was going to be using to be able to get that unendurable damage happening. And I set it up in an order that I believe is going to happen, but you'll see a little bit later on that I had accidentally started removing them from the top of my life deck instead of the top of my discard pile. So it was all the more obvious what I had in mind originally once I put those cards back, specifically because I was looking towards the next combat of what I can use and what is going to be the most beneficial. So what I think I'm going to put in my hand is the Black Corruption in order to get rid of it with the Mastery and be able to get 2 free cards out of his life deck. So going over this, double checking. Sometimes we take a little bit long, but that's what happens. So there it goes. I'll draw my card. Perfect. So now it actually plays out the way I believed it would, where he uses Turles' power to get that unendurable damage. And there it goes. So as you see here, I actually banished the top 3 cards of my life deck, to which I was promptly corrected that it's not from my life deck, it's from my discard pile. And I even go to take another look at it and realize, what was I doing here? Yeah. So here I'll go putting them back, and then I'll banish them from the correct place. So now that he's used that power, I'm going to take advantage and use my mastery in order to drop him out a card. In my experience, I found that a lot of players won't continue the combat with 1 card in hand just because they don't want to go to 0 cards. It's about card advantage, about hand advantage, specifically when they're the ones that went into combat. So if they're the attacker for the combat, if they're the ones who initiated it, then they really don't want to go to 0, just because that next turn is going to be all that more devastating when your opponent enters at 4 cards and you're entering at 3. Okay, and there is the cards that get discarded and banished. So he'll use double strike one last time. It'll do no damage, and there's no anger to lower. Since I still have 2 cards in hand, I take advantage, and I use Black Confidence Shot. This is probably one of my favorite cards in the deck right now, especially just because of the combo plays that it has with the Android Attack Drill. So even with just the Devious Mastery itself, it becomes a 4/4 for 2 stages, which is a good card. On Android 18's level 2, it'll actually become a 6/4 for 2, which is even better. So here I'll put Smoothness down, I'll put Tac Drill, and I'll put down VTP, Rejuvenate, Confident Shot, go up my stages. It's a little bit out of order, but you know. I'll pass the turn over to Tony. Now, Tony's deck isn't used to playing on anything above 1, which is, you know, your usual Ruthless Turles, but it still has its ways. He still manages to make it happen into a deck that's very playable. So although its playability is best at level 1, that does not mean it's unplayable at 2, 3, and 4. At 2, it's probably one of the hardest levels to really play on, just because it's such a slow level. So here Tony's going to enter in on me. I'm going to VTP for a knee catch, just because it's the physical block that I have in my discard pile. Without time there, it's just a good target to have. And it'll allow me to enter in with 5 cards. So this isn't something you really want to see, not too much at least, when you have to have your stages kind of high, is to have about 4 energy attacks. So here he's actually going to open with his mastery and play the red double strike. So I'm contemplating whether or not it's worth it to block the first one or hold out for a card that might do flat stage damage. That looks like it was just an error on his part. I'm also counting the cards in both of our life decks to see what's going on. I guess I let it hit. Yep, I let it hit. I take the anger down. It's no big deal. So here I'm going to probably attack with 18 just to get that extra card in hand. Of course, it is a hit effect, so it has to land. We're going to see right now. Let's see what happens. And Tony actually goes ahead and takes it. When here it's a little bit of a misplay on my part. I don't actually rearrange the top 6. What I do is I just draw the card. And Tony's going to use Turles' power here. So I'm going to bash the top 3 of my discard pile. And now all of his attacks are going to have +3 and cannot be endured. So I'll lunge, and this is going to hit for pretty big damage. I believe Tony is at C now, and I should be right around E. So that's going to be about 3 plus the 4. That's going to be 7, 8, 9, 10 life cards and 1 stage. It's a really big hit. It's not something you really want to take. So if he has a red stop or a physical block in hand, this is probably the best card to use it on, at least right now. At the time of this build, I was only running about 2 defensive bursts, so just because the 18, the personality turns off physical so much, so he actually is going to take the damage. With endurance, it's not too big of a deal. With resourceful block having endurance 3, that's 4 cards on its own, and then he hits an energy defensive stance, so he walks away pretty clean with only 5 out of the about 10-11 cards that it would have been worth of damage, which is a pretty good break in my opinion. So yeah, right now he's going to use an energy attack. So the great thing about this is the few energy attacks he actually does play, in this case, is going to do the extra stage damage because 18 only turns off physical attacks. So this is going to be 5 life cards and 3 stages, unendurable with the damage banished. So it's an automatic crit, and all of the damage is going to be banished. So I forget that the damage is banished. Lower my, I would have lost 2 anger there, but there it goes. I fixed that, so I'll lower my anger from the crit. Not that I had much anger to lose anyways. So now I'm sitting at about 7 above 0, and Tony's at 4. So my best bet is going to be to play Black Blinding Burst, because it's only 2 stages, and it's going to be a good solid 8 life cards because of Attack Drill and the Devious Mastery. So with 8 life cards in one stage, it's a really good card to play right now. So here, Tony doesn't block it. He doesn't have an energy block, or else he would have blocked one of my other attacks as well. So he'll take the damage. There's nothing to crit. He doesn't have any anger. He doesn't play any Dragon Balls either. So now from where Tony's sitting, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that he can do. He can use his Double Strike to go ahead and get the petty anger up. It's just to get him to 4, but I'll knee block it to gain the extra 2 anger. So here I use black overhead to jump up to 4. It's not the best play against a Turles deck specifically because of the endurance, but it makes it so that all of your opponent's physical attacks now require 2 stages to be paid. And she has an attack that is for 0 life cards again. It's a recurring trend with her, mainly because she was set up with the Black Perceptive Mastery. It's supposed to be, you know, a very small chip attack that people either won't block or it baits out the block. So it'll do 1/1, and if it hits, it'll lower his MP down to 0. Which means that it effectively turns off his physical attacks because he can't pay for them. So with level 4, it's really devastating, especially if that attack goes off and it hits. If it lands, it completely turns off the offensive for your opponent unless they have a way to gain stages through a block. And even then, it makes it so that all of their physical attacks cost 2 stages. It's really hard to recover from being set down to 0. So now he'll pay his last 2 stages to use Stomach Dive, which is going to hit for quite a bit because he can still modify. So it'll be +3, +5. I think it comes out to 9 stages in total because the attack table lines up for 0 plus all the modifiers. Yep, it goes down to 9. So I'll be just at about 1 above 0. The great thing about that, though, is that even at 1 above 0, 18 is still in the D bracket. So there, the card I discard a card for the Black Mastery, again, to get that card out of his hand. Now, right now, he can't pay for any attack, so it doesn't matter what that last card in his hand is. And even if he could play it, more likely than not, he wouldn't use it because of the fact that he entered in on combat, which means that my turn is going to be coming up. So here I think about it. My turn is coming up. I don't mind paying that 1 stage to get that attack off. So it'll be 4 life cards, 5 in total actually, because he has no stages. So it'll be 4 and 1, which comes out to 5. He gets the majority of it right on that first card. Endurance is a beautiful thing. It saves him here. And now I'm going to use 18's attack, which doesn't really mean anything, but again, it's a little bit of chip damage. We're here in the home stretch of the game, so at this point I'm just trying to seal the deal and close it off. Okay, so I'll draw my 3 cards, PUR 5, and now I have to decide whether or not it's worth going in on combat. I don't, so I'll pass this up. I'll rejuve Black Dismissal. Tony's gonna go ahead and take his turn, draw his cards, and I believe he'll go into combat. Yeah, he'll go into combat this turn. Or no, he actually doesn't because he drew into a red Despair drill. It's not a drill you really ever want to see this late in the game. It's something that he would much rather fetch out or get early on in the game, just because it allows him to stack up that extra damage because of the anger that he'll be gaining slowly throughout. He'll manipulate his anger in various ways, whether it's raising it, lowering it, neutralizing it with Stomach Dive. and things of that nature. So he's going to pass Rejuve. With 9 cards left in deck, I know that my next hand is going to be the hand I'm entering in on combat, regardless of what I draw. So I actually get a pretty good draw here, and I'm going to enter in on combat. He'll banish for mastery, draws 3 cards. He's got 6 left in deck. So I'm going to attack with 18. Really, I'm just trying to bait out that block if he has one, and if not, perfect. He did. He had a red stop. So I'm going to bait out his stop, basically, because if not, he would be set down to 0, turning off his offense. So the great thing is that by using 18's attack first, I baited out his stop. It's going to hurt because all of his attacks can be modified, but he would have to use Turles' power first, which I believe he's going to do to try and stack up as much damage as possible. But if I had the foresight to see this, at least I think I did. That's what he'll be doing. Perfect. So he banishes the top 3 of my discard pile in order to give all of his attacks plus 3 stages. And here I'll hit him with a black defensive burst, and even if the life card damage doesn't mean game, it's going to end the game for sure. He has no anger to block with the drill, and I don't believe he has another block in hand. So with a deck that's very reliant on its physical attacks, the black defensive burst just turns it off. So I want to thank you guys. That was the end of the game. So as you can see, well, we didn't really finish it out there, but the black defensive burst didn't kill him in life card damage, but it turned him off. He had no more blocks in hand, which meant that the game was over and he had lost. It was a good game overall. We were both testing out a few different things, so that's why there were some period of pauses there, so we can get an idea of what kind of combos we can make. So anyways, thanks guys. It's me, Carlos. I was playing against Tony. We look forward to seeing you guys later on and hoping you check some more stuff out.